So we call two-way conversations like no other. And today's episode is an episode like no other. We've got a lot of big stories to talk about. We also have a lot of things to tell you about coming up here, including a presentation this afternoon from David Burrell on the New York City mayor's race. That'll you never seen anything like it. It's about where the race stands now and where the possibility exists if Mondami could lose. And I'll talk to you about that in just a minute. Sean, Dan, and I will quickly run through the day, take your questions. If you want to be in on the conversation, you're here on the platform, please raise your hand. If you're on X or YouTube, no smack in the chat. And for all of you, peace, love, and understanding everywhere, all the time. No deviation, and extend the presumption of grace to all. And welcome into the audience listening to us on a podcast. This program now available as a podcast, and we're off to an auspicious start, I would say. Gentlemen, congratulations. You're the top 100 in the Apple podcast list after the first day. And that's pretty good. I think we're going to throw it up there. I think we've gotten to the high 70s. We've dropped a little bit. So my word to everybody watching and listening is please like, subscribe, download. We are ahead of Ari Melber, though. Sean,
I just noticed.
Sean, first time ever you've been ahead of Ari in anything. Is that correct?
Well, it's the first time I've been in the top 100, and I graduated in the class of 68.
Yeah. Nice. Dan, congratulations. Did you listen to the podcast?
I have not. I just was thinking I have to subscribe across all platforms.
Yes, please do. So because the podcast folks can't see a damn thing, Dan is wearing a light colored shirt, Sean a dark colored shirt, and I am a perspiring mess as always. So thank you all for joining. Lots happened this morning even that is interesting and important, including Putin speaking out. But let me run through the day book, and then we'll get to the news that occurred this morning. So much occurred this morning. Hunter Biden, Caroline Leavitt was on Fox and Friends, and Hakeem Jeffries was on Squawk Box. In any event, the president has one event today, intelligence briefing at 11, and then he's delivering remarks at 1. Anybody know what he's talking about at 1?
You think Sean? It's only one subject?
Sean, do you know? Remarks at 1, White House press poll.
I do not. No, I don't. And I'm
okay. All right. So 1 o'clock, be there. I'm sure someone will take it live. The vice president remains the United Kingdom. There's hilarious coverage of his trip. It's a mix of business and pleasure with his family. And there's just some hilarious stories in the British press about it. So I recommend those to you. And the Wall Street Journal says that the Europeans are giving him tons of credit for his involvement in the Ukrainian discussions. And of course, the Europeans normally aren't the hugest fans of the vice president, and he's been pretty tough on Europe, but it's tough love because he wants a great relationship with the Europeans. Congress is still at 2:30 today. Gavin Newsom is holding a press conference to unveil the redistricting plan that is intended to go on the ballot in the fall. We'll talk about that in a moment. That's 2:30 Eastern. And then 2 senators, one Republican, one Democrat, both are Colombian Americans, are in Colombia today. Senator Moreno, a Republican from Ohio, Ruben Gallega, Democrat from Arizona. We'll talk about Senator Gallega because he's going somewhere else pretty soon. And then the initial jobless claims numbers, I forgot to check. What were those? Anybody tell me what those were at 8:30?
Hold, please.
We'll find out. In any event, since we met, while we look for the job numbers, since we met yesterday, there's a lot more bullishness even about this summit tomorrow. Caroline Leavitt said on Fox and Friends there will be a joint press conference afterwards. At least that's the plan. And President Putin this morning sounded pretty optimistic about the meeting. Here's Putin from just a few hours ago.
Mark, just so you know, sorry.
To tell you about the stage we are at with the current American administration, which, as everyone knows, is making, in my opinion, quite energetic and sincere efforts to stop the hostilities, stop the crisis, and reach agreements that are of interest to all parties involved in this conflict in order to create long-term conditions for peace between our countries and in Europe and in the world as a whole. If by the next stages we reach agreements in the area of control over strategic offensive weapons.
Just quickly, thank you, Dan. It's going to be an interesting day in the markets. Dow futures down 200 just ahead of the open on news that the inflation came in much hotter than expected. Wholesale inflation up almost a full point. So we'll talk about that.
And that's just for 1 month.
Yeah, just for the month. That's right. Okay, here's Caroline Leavitt previewing the summit on Fox and Friends moments ago.
And thanks to President Trump's determination to bring this war to an end, both Russia and Ukraine have engaged in direct diplomatic discussions. They have exchanged prisoners of war and discussed other humanitarian issues. And you've seen the president engage directly with both leaders as well, over the phone numerous times with President Putin and in person several times with President Zelensky. The Russian president requested this meeting with the president tomorrow, and the president wants to exhaust all options to try to bring this war to a peaceful resolution. So tomorrow, bright and early, he will be departing the White House for our joint military base in Anchorage, Alaska, where he will engage in a one-on-one meeting with President Putin, which will be followed by a bilateral lunch with the respective delegations from both countries, and then a press conference. And so what comes after that meeting is up to President Trump, and that's part of the reason he is going. He has incredible instincts, and he wants to sit down and look the Russian president in the eye and see what progress can be made to move the ball forward to end this brutal war and to restore peace.
You know, Caroline.
So this isn't going to be a 2-minute meeting, because no matter what happens with the leaders, they're going to have lunch, presumably some grilled salmon, and then they're going to do a press conference. Of course, that could change.
So I just for clarity, I want to say that I heard her say then there'll be a press conference. That I didn't hear her say joint press conference. There might have been further clarity afterwards, but I didn't hear her say a joint press conference. I know everyone's jumping to that.
Yeah.
I'm only holding that out because that may have been, I think there's been some reporting because Caitlin Collins took the talking points of the Kremlin and pushed them out there. So I don't know if that was the basis by which everyone else is saying it, but we know there's a press conference. I wouldn't be still surprised if it's one-on-one. Yeah. I think people are just jumping to a conclusion because, CNN is pushing these Kremlin talking points out.
Yeah, I got a text from somebody saying it was going to be a joint press conference, but I haven't heard back from them, and I asked him to clarify. So we'll see. But you're absolutely right to make that clarification. So again, if you look at all the reporting, and Zelensky's still in Europe, he's in London today, I believe. The Europeans and Zelensky seem pretty good about a unified front with the United States. The president, I hear a lot of chatter on the left. Oh, Putin's going to trick him, and he's going to be duped by Putin, and he's given Putin everything he wants. Well, the president's right. As a matter of policy, he really hasn't given Putin everything he wants, either in the first term or in this term. And in fact, he's done things like cancel the pipeline that wasn't done by the previous administration. And he's did things in the first term, like send missiles to the Ukrainians that President Obama chose not to do. So his record confronting Putin and the threats he's making confronting Putin, if this summit doesn't go well, seem pretty clear, despite the rhetoric that confounds all of us. So, Sean, as John McCain would say, the summit has been previewed every possible way, but not everybody's done it. So where are you right now and going into this? What are you looking for? What are you concerned about? How optimistic are you that some good will come from it?
So what am I looking for? I'm looking for the expansion of topics. I think there's a lot more beyond Ukraine that the President Putin could talk about, and that Putin and Trump may try to go to. Additional nuclear options start to expire next year. There's potential additional trade. Putin wants back into certain organizations. My point is, I have a feeling that this conversation may delve into a lot of additional areas well beyond Ukraine, so that the president can say, we talked about all these other things as well. And then he can walk away with a deliverable, so he can say, hey, we talked about Ukraine. I've got some ideas. I'm going to huddle back with the other folks, but we also made progress on some nuclear stuff. And I just, frankly, I love listening to the president say the word nuclear. We've got to do the nuclear. Is always fun to listen to. So I think that's where I wouldn't be surprised seeing a lot of this head into other subjects. I am interested, I'm fascinated by this idea that everybody keeps talking to him. I still don't believe. I still hold out hope that I think he could walk away from this and saying, "I got these 5 things." I think he's playing good leader by listening to all these folks, but I'm still not convinced that he's just going to walk away and come back and say it was a listening session. I wouldn't be surprised if we have contours of some kind of deal.
Yeah, Dan, before you go, Caroline Levitt, according to Michael Daly, who watched her appearance as if it were the Zapruder film, says that she was asked joint press conference. She said, yes, that's the plan, joint press conference. So she's saying that. Dan, same question. What are you looking for? What are you concerned about? What are you hopeful about?
So I think we now have a sense of what Trump's plan is going into this. And I'm pretty happy with it. I think it sounds pretty good. It sounds like he's aligned with the Europeans. Now he's obviously could change his mind. I think the question is, what is Putin's goal? Is he going? I mean, he's a strategic thinker. He's always playing the long game. He always has stuff up his sleeve. Is he going in to charm Trump, to try to get him to soften up, to as Sean said, hey, there's a lot of areas where we can do business, we can do deals, we can, oil exploration? Or does he go in, which has been Putin's history in some meetings, to confront, to lecture, to try to convince Trump why he's kind of wrong, or Zelensky's wrong and Europe's wrong? And how does Trump handle that? Does he sit there and calmly listen? Because Trump's history is not to be lectured, not to be told he's wrong. So I'm really curious what Putin's going to try to do. And in those first couple minutes, how does Trump handle it?
Yeah, I agree.
Well,
go ahead.
I was going to say that remember what Caroline also said, it's a one-on-one. Obviously, there'll have to be an interpreter in there, but I think that's going to be the interesting thing. Is it's going to, when they come out, do they both share the same analysis of what they agreed to? And I get the president's distrust of some of the bureaucrats that have been in the room in the past and how they've interpreted things and why he's skeptical of bringing additional people in there. But it will be interesting to see if they share an analysis coming out of that meeting of what they did agree to.
The people who put the languages in the other language, my understanding is they like to be called interpreters rather than translators. No, other way around. They like to be called translators, not interpreters, because they in diplomatic circles, they don't like to be thought of as interpreting what was said. You see my point? I know. Yeah. I learned that the hard way at the UN when I referred to interpreters, and they bit my head off. So Dan, I agree with you. It seems like we know the president's initial posture, and that the biggest variable is two related variables: is what is Putin's posture, and how does Trump deal with it? And my sense is, just from everything he said publicly and from people I've talked to, he's going to basically say, cut the crap. Like, we're not here to lecture or pussyfoot around. Like, we all know what's going on. And I'll be curious to see if he threatens sanctions and other moves if Putin's not playing ball. Also curious about who's going with him, right? Like Rubio certainly is going. Is Bessent going? I don't know. But I'll be curious to see who's in that bilateral lunch at the table.
J.D. Vance is there?
No, I think he's still in England. But interesting to see because if Bessent's there, obviously the economic component, which Sean raised, could be an issue. All right, we'll obviously talk about this again.
And obviously, Witkoff's got to be there. Is Kellogg there? Right? Does Kellogg make the trip? Which I sort of have a feeling the Russians don't want anyone there.
Yep.
On the Ukraine side. Yep.
Totally agree. All right. DC crime. No huge developments. The president talked about it up at Storm yesterday, and a lot of Democrats are still furious about it. There's the guy who got arrested for throwing a Subway sandwich at the cops, and there were more arrests last night. But I don't know that there's anything we need to talk about on this today, unless either of you have anything you want to say about it.
The only thing I want to say is the Democratic Party is totally now not talking about crime. This is all about Trump. And that, I think, is a bad place for the party to be.
Yeah. My interview with Joe Scarborough on Next Up today will talk a lot about how Democrats are dealing with the DC thing. And Joe has a really interesting perspective on it, and that'll drop later today.
Well, there's a clip, by the way, which you don't see very often, of the White House putting out on their rapid response channel of the discussion, Scarborough quoting that Washington Post poll that Caroline mentioned in the briefing yesterday. And it's sort of like, if you've lost the Morning Joe crowd, you're in big trouble, right? If they're the ones saying, you got to be kidding me, like crime is a problem, and you got Elizabeth Boomiller and other people trying to make the case that, oh no, it's not that bad. Again, I go back to this, like in any other situation, if the shoe was on the other foot, they talk about Republicans cooking the books. We have a DC police commander cooking the books about crime. We have a DC council that downplayed this. Democrats are literally walking into this trap, and it's kind of funny to just watch how pathetic it is.
It should be all over the media. It's a little bit on Twitter, but it should be all over the media is TV journalists interviewing crime victims and people afraid of crime in DC and ask them how they feel about it. Like that.
But they are. It's funny.
The journalists are.
It's just mostly you see more journalists on cable news saying how outraged they are. They should get out of the studio.
When they do show the DC residents, black, white, young, old, they're all saying we welcome it, right? I mean, that's
some of it, but look how much coverage the protests got of people protesting it. 20 people protest, and there's thousands of people in DC, tens of thousands, who are saying this.
One quick point on that, Mark. To your point about the protests, I was reading and watching some of the video last night. If you don't like Donald Trump or his policies, God, I mean, you have a First Amendment right, whatever. But to yell profanities and undignified comments at law enforcement individuals and members of the National Guard who are doing what they're told, it is a chain of command world. And I know that the DC chief doesn't understand that. But the bottom line is to go up to a federal officer or a National Guardsman and call them a fascist or an a-hole for doing their job, for signing up to protect America. Do you really, I don't think people fully appreciate these guys in the National Guard, especially who have full-time jobs, are getting yanked out to do this away from their family, away from their jobs, and to have people walk up and tell them that they're fascists and jerks. I think that the real jerk is anyone who wants to do that and throw a Subway sandwich at someone.
All right. Subway. All right. The redistricting, as I said, Gavin Newsom 2:30 today announcing formally the effort to get on the ballot a referendum that would say if Texas redistricts, we'll redistrict, but then we'll go back to the commission. And Newsom's team on 106, save that for 1 second. 106, 105, please. Sorry. Newsom's team on Twitter has been doing this thing. You see it here in this tweet, and I'll read it in a second for the podcast team, which is they're mimicking a lot. They're making fun of Donald Trump. They're using his techniques and mocking him in their social media to show how tough they are. Wow, tomorrow history will be made. This was written yesterday. Caroline Levitt will have no answer for the supposed...
Caroline.
Yeah, Caroline. Yeah. Thank you. Caroline Levitt will have no answer for the supposed, quote, fake media about California's beautiful maps. People are saying they are the greatest maps ever created, even better than Christopher Columbus. Donald the failure, Trump, be warned, tomorrow may be the worst day of your life, all because you, quote, missed the deadline. Liberation Day for America. What does it say? Gone?
GCA.
Governor California.
Governor California. Yeah. So again, you can decide if you think this is funny or not, but it does show, it puts in sharp relief my theory that Newsom realizes he could lose this thing. It may not pass in the fall, but he's going to add a ton of names to his list. He's going to increase his social media accounts. He will become the king of the Democratic Party when it comes to social media followers and email addresses that he'll get. But there's a new poll out, and this is where we show 106, please. A new poll out that was in Politico this morning. They got it first, saying voters are very skeptical of this. Democrats, Republicans, Independents. Newsom's redistricting gambit complicated by support for independent congressional maps. The latest Politico Citron Center Possibility Lab survey found that strong majorities in both parties prefer an independent panel draw the House district lines. Now, if you went to Democrats and really informed them and said, well, we know you like the independent panel, but do you want Texas to give Donald Trump a majority in the House? You'd probably move some people. But in general, in California legislative battles, if it's a yes-no question, no, people are more likely to vote no. In my experience, particularly on process questions, this is a pure process question, and Newsom's side is not going to have more money, I don't think, but they'll certainly not have all the money. There's going to be a lot of money spent on the other side. So, Dan, is Gavin Newsom making a mistake? I don't like to ask yes/no questions. Let me revise and extend. How big a mistake, if any, is Gavin Newsom making in going all in on something which could fail in the fall?
I think it's a pretty potentially risky move because I think he's having a moment. I think the base loves what he's doing, the mocking, the social media game. Like, he is having another moment. I think this is his third one in 3 months when no other Democrat has had anything like this.
One was on immigration. What was the other one?
When he went to South Carolina and got Jim Clyburn to speak positively, it got national coverage, at least in the blue, media. But I think that what would be humiliating for him, because again, if you want to be the leader and project strength, then you got to ultimately put some points on the board, is if this is roundly defeated. And I think those numbers in there, and I think Anthony is on the Zoom here, and he was on 2-way tonight, is there are a lot of people, including independents, who just look at this and say, I'm not, no, I don't want to do that. And if that happens, then it's humiliating.
Yeah, let's play Anthony for Anthony and everyone else. Anthony was on the program, and we were so struck by what he said about his personal politics and how he feels about this effort. This is Anthony from 2-way tonight, last night, 107, please.
I'm a left-leaning independent. Voted for Kamala Harris. I kind of regret that now, based on things going on. But I'm not personally a big fan of the redistricting method because both parties have done it. I think in Massachusetts they're trying to do it or something like that, and there's no Republican senators there at all.
Sean, who would you bet on in this ballot fight?
What's the bet?
Who is Newsom going to win or not?
I mean, I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. I think within the Democratic Party, he shows fight. That's what they want.
But I'm asking if you think it'll pass or not.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
No.
No.
And how damaging will that be to him with the base if it doesn't pass?
That's why I'm saying it goes back to, I think that right now he can walk out and say to his team, I was the only, because right now he'll probably be the only one, right? And unless I'm reading the delegations wrong. So if he can go out and say, I was the only one who did anything. I tried harder than anyone else. I put a measure on the ballot, I fought. I mean, if he plays this right, I think his base will still reward him.
Yeah. All right, we'll see. The Fed, I did a bunch of reporting on this yesterday.
By the way, just to be clear, I love when all these people, California voted 58% for Kamala Harris. It was down actually significantly from Joe Biden. And yet their delegation of 52 members of the House is dominated by 43 Democrats. Done
by an independent commission.
Right. So I mean, that's independent. I always love that word. Meaning that the people weren't openly hostile. But the bottom line is all of these states, I love it. Massachusetts, your guy there, 9-0. Illinois, Michigan, Maryland, they've already done it. I just get a kick out of the fact that like no one will talk about the fact that, in this cycle, I mean, Dan and I don't need to go back and forth and revisit history to Elbridge Gerry, but the bottom line is that all of these states, it wasn't like they didn't have their crack at this.
Yes.
Well, that's the same exact argument with Texas. I mean, they're 25-12.
Yeah.
And it's a 55-45 state.
Right.
Yes. All right. Fed, again, this is through a glass darkly because someone pointed out to me yesterday, the president and Scott Bessent said Bessent was out. It could end up being Bessent. And the president himself yesterday suggested he wasn't going to do this in a hurry. In other words, he's not going to announce a Fed chair in waiting soon. And it doesn't really make sense. There are people around the president, some of whom have gone discouraged about the prospect of forcing Powell out. Powell's an institutionalist. He doesn't want to be forced out, not just because he wants the job, but because he feels it would show a encroachment on something he values, which is the independence of the Fed. He also may continue to stay on. He doesn't have to leave the Fed in May when his term as chair runs out. And that's only happened, I'm told, once in Fed history, but he might do that because he's such an institutionalist. So if you can't force him out and you're not going to fill the seat to May, you got some time. And I don't believe either of the two Kevins are going to get it, Warsh or Hassan. And so, as I've said for a while, I still think it's door number 4. If you look at the public reports, door number 4 has a lot of people behind it. The president said yesterday it's down to 3 or 4, but about a dozen names have been floated. One of the names that was floated is a guy named Mark Summerlin. Is that his name? Mark Summerlin? Who was the deputy head of the National Economic Council in the Bush 43 administration. He was on Squawk Box this morning talking about the economy, and his name has been floated as one of the dozen people under consideration. Listen to his colloquy with Joe Kernan and see if you're struck by what I was struck by. Roll that one, please.
So, Mark, when did you first get wind of the possibility that you were under consideration? Have you been interviewed by the Treasury Secretary at this point? Got any phone calls? Are you expecting some?
Yeah, I think this is pretty well known. So, but Secretary Bessent's was a day one client for my firm. Right. So we've been kind of talking about monetary policy weekly for probably 12 years. So he knows pretty much everything I believe. I got a call last Wednesday that just said there was going to be a list. I was going to be on it. And that's as much as I know right now. I'm out here in Jackson Hole, so I wasn't clearly prepared to be in the right place when that happened. And so, I'm waiting for more guidance on where we go from here.
All right. We didn't include the part I want to highlight, but I'll say what it was. But in that clip that we did show, there's going to be a list. Like they're telling people we're leaking a bunch of names. What he said later in the interview, he's never met Trump. Now, I don't know a lot about what I don't know who he'll pick. And I don't know a lot about how he's thinking about this. But I find it, Sean, impossible to believe he's going to pick a stranger. Of all the jobs where he doesn't want a pig in a poke, of all the jobs where he doesn't want any David Souter, Rex Tillerson surprises, it's this one. He's not going to pick some guy he's never met, is he?
No. Look, I've had, not on this job, but I've talked to the president about other positions where he literally will bring up, he did this the other day on a Truth Social, we talked about Stephen Mnuchin. And the bottom line is he will constantly remind people about someone else. He'll say, so-and-so gave me Esper.
Yeah.
So-and-so gave me Chris Wray. And so I mean, look, I've said this all along. Look at who is in his cabinet, right? All people he feels comfortable with, all people he knows. He's known Pam Bondi for years. He's known Pete Hegseth for years. He's known Cash for a while. I mean, like, it is not going to someone he doesn't know.
Who worked in the Bush administration. Dan, two things for you. One is, what's the logic of putting out a list of 12 names that includes some bullshit names on it? Like, what are they doing with that?
They're just trying to, they want it to seem like it's thorough. They're looking, it's not just loyalists. Like, they want to give the appearance that this is a real process with a real independent person. It is going to be Scott Bessent still. And I think the fact that Bessent called for a 1.5% cut was my biggest tell that Scott Bessent's auditioning.
I still don't think it's going to be Bessent, but he might be.
But again, the key word is when we say they are putting out a list, they aren't. These are Bessent people, right?
Yeah,
so
course,
in some ways, but my point is, this gets back to the point that I've made, and now, like, Bessent is not out of the running in this. He's basically walking candidates in and saying, "Do you like this joker here? Gosh, I don't." And so it's creating the impression.
It's the Cheney model. It's the Cheney model, but I still don't think it's going to be Bessent, but it could be. Lastly, again, I got nothing against that guy. He does not seem like a Trump kind of guy to me, just personality wise. Like, he's not going to walk in and Trump's going to be like, "Oh yeah, that guy." That's
central casting. Just turn on the TV and be like, "That guy."
Right.
All right. We do some stuff real quick. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 things to do, and then we're going to go to your questions. There's a bunch of stuff still coming out, some through the media, some from Tulsi Gabbard, about what I call Russia Gate. Some people call it Russia Gate, but that's the original thing. It is Russia Gate. And Sean, there's a new thing about the Clinton Foundation. Tell everybody.
I mean, look, I would keep your eye on this. John Solomon has been right on so many things when it came to the strike force, the grand jury. Last night on my show, he said, and they have now put out when the Clinton Foundation was being investigated by the FBI in the lead up to the campaign, the highest levels of the Department of Justice, and now we know it was the Deputy Attorney General, ordered the FBI to stop looking into the Clinton Foundation and some of their funding. This is going to be another effort by MAGA to go right back at it. I know Dan's not happy with that, but the bottom line is this, I think, is going to continue to add to this idea of the Russia hoax, more information, more about the weaponization of the Department of Justice and the FBI to benefit political opponents. So this, I think this thing is going to keep bubbling up.
Yeah. Dan, do you pledge to read all these articles with an open mind?
Yes, I do. And I look forward to the Justice Department looking at the current administration's overseas investments and conflicts. I mean, you want to go dig Dan,
what makes this different isn't whether or not where this is different is that what Solomon's reporting is that the FBI was looking into the Clinton Foundation and they were told, stop looking. So it's not a question of whether, I mean, that's what makes this worse, is that you actually have people at the highest level saying, stop, shut it down.
All right, we'll keep following it. What's the name of the guy who did that long interview with Hunter Biden? What's that guy's name?
Channel 5.
Channel 5. All right. So Channel 5 about an hour and a half ago posted another long interview with Hunter Biden, and it was pegged to Melania Trump's lawyer sending Hunter Biden a letter saying, I'm going to sue you for $1 billion if you don't take back from the previous session your citation of Michael Wolff saying that Melania and Donald Trump met after being introduced by Jeffrey Epstein. She's previously gone after 2 other entities, and they won. Well, they won in the sense that they've repudiated what they said, James Carville and I believe the Daily Beast, both of whom keyed off of the same Michael Wolff thing. So Hunter, they gave Hunter Biden a deadline. He didn't meet the deadline, and this morning he explained his position on whether he's going to apologize.
I believe if we're playing the right clip, we do need to warn.
Yes.
Anyone just know it's very Hunter Biden-esque.
Here we go. 114A, please.
Keep small children out.
The platform to apologize to the First Lady for your statements that you made about her possible connection to Jeffrey Epstein.
Fuck that. That's not going to happen.
All right, there's a whole other hour after that, which I haven't had time to watch yet, but take a look. But he's not going to apologize. It'd be interesting to see if she actually brings a suit, because I look forward to the discovery in that case. All right.
By the way, it is for those of us who are listening on the podcast, which is now available on Apple and Spotify and all other podcast forms.
Top 100 on the Apple list of all news podcasts.
He sounds so much like his dad. I mean, it is uncanny. If you were,
that happens in
old school Biden.
Yeah. All right. Ruben Gallego, as we mentioned, is in Columbia today. He went to Iowa. Went to the state fair. Oh, speaking of the state fair, 111. I know we're short for time, but we got to do this one. The Des Moines Register covers the Iowa State Fair, the finest state fair in the United States, by the way, like nobody else. And here's the headline, an incredible picture, which those of you listening on the podcast, you're missing out. Meet the Iowa State Fair's new venue, Blue Ribbon Bar and Eatery. Blue Ribbon Bar will host a calf fry eating contest every day. Do you know what a calf fry is? Dan, Sean, do you guys know what a calf fry is?
I'm going to say it has to do with
I'm going to guess, chicken. Yeah.
All right, we'll read about it in the chat. Somebody's going to tell us because I couldn't find it in Google, or Michael will tell us. All right, in any event, where else is Mr. Gallego going after going to Iowa? He's going to the Granite State, the great state of New Hampshire, first in the nation, live free or die. Here's the poster for his upcoming event with Congresswoman Goodlander. Join Maggie Goodlander and Ruben Gallego for a town hall, New Hampshire town hall. They like the town halls, August 22nd. So that's in 8 days in Nashua, where presidential campaign history is made again and again. Here's my one question, and then we got to move on. Can he become a first-tier candidate? Can he become a first-tier candidate? I'm not saying can he be the nominee. Can he become a first-tier candidate? Dan?
Yes, because the field's weak.
Sean?
Same.
Okay. But between bundling and super PAC and grassroots money, which of the three will be his biggest pot of money? Dan?
Grassroots, because he'll say stuff.
Yeah. Sean?
Agreed.
Yeah. I believe that it'll be difficult for him to become a first-tier candidate, even in a weak field, ready for some scrutiny. What does that say? A calf fry is a dish made from cow. What's the next? What's
Mark,
the next word?
I'll just say
the word rhymes with balls.
Yeah.
To my understanding, Gallego's interviewing staff. Like, he's going to run.
Yeah. Dan is correct. There are some people out there who are assumed to be running, like Gavin Newsom. And Dan is breaking news here, because this guy is, and again, it shouldn't be a surprise he's going to Iowa and New Hampshire, even though we don't know what the calendar is going to be. This guy is more into running and more committed to running in terms of attitude and process than almost anybody else. Yep. Because almost everybody else who's talked about is still iffy-wishy, including, here's some news for you. Don't be surprised if Bashir runs for Senate. Don't be surprised if Bashir runs for Senate. So there's a guy everybody thinks is running who may not run. And a lot of the people talk about running have young kids. And I will tell you, Mr. Gallego, if he steps on the national stage, will be dealing with scrutiny of his personal life and his issue positions, unlike anything he has faced before, which is what happens when you run for president. Lastly, the New York City mayoral race.
And for a guy who liked to who enjoyed himself on Capitol Hill, it'd be a very interesting.
Yes. Mara Gay, New York Times columnist, reported on the website that Barack Obama called Mondami and compared notes with him and seemed to be encouraging. David Axelrod in her column on the record saying very nice things about him and really just saying he's the future and the party better get on board. Hakeem Jeffries this morning on Squawk Box, I would say less enthusiastic. Here is the Democratic leader, 115.
Well, he ran a strong race in the primary, obviously, relentlessly focused on affordability, which is a big problem, of course, here in New York City, along with every other part of the United States of America. And he outworked the opposition. He outmessaged the opposition and outorganized the opposition. But now during the general election, of course, he's going to have to demonstrate to a broader electorate, including in many of the neighborhoods that I represent in Brooklyn, that his ideas can actually be put into reality. And that's, the conversation that he's having with me and having with people who are community leaders and residents in the 8th Congressional District I serve.
And that sounds like you're not convinced then yet.
Checks the earpiece,
I can't hear you.
Initial conversation. It was a constructive and candid conversation. It was centered around the community. And in that conversation, he indicated he'd like my help in putting together additional meetings with members of the congressional delegation, as well as leaders in many of the communities that I represent in neighborhoods like East New York and Brownsville, Canarsie, some of the more lower income working class neighborhoods that I may serve. I agreed to do that. That meeting is being put into motion right now.
Doesn't sound like a guy ready to endorse. Now, today at 3 o'clock, live on the two-way platform, it'll appear on YouTube at 6 o'clock. David Burrell is going to come on and present incredibly interesting data that I've not seen anywhere else. David's an expert on two things. He's an expert on a lot of things, but two things that'll be germane for his presentation today. And Dan and Sean, you're welcome to come join.
Yeah,
I think you'd enjoy it. One is he's a great pollster. So he's polled the race, and he shows what the other polls have shown, which is Mondami's way ahead. But the other thing David's an expert at is, can the electorate be expanded? If you use the methods that are used to get new people to vote, what voting groups would need to vote in greater numbers, and how much of the vote would Cuomo need to get? And David's conclusion is what every poll will tell you, which is the only way Mondami doesn't win is if Cuomo wins. Adams and Sliwa can't win. So David will show us 4 voting groups whose turnout would have to increase dramatically to give Cuomo a chance to win. So again, David will share his expertise on the current state of the race. And then if as many people don't want Mondami to win, who are rich and privileged people, if you don't want Mondami to win, this will show you what would have to happen, who would have to turn out, who the Cuomo people would have to turn out. And there are a lot of people on the sidelines here are gearing up for after Labor Day, because that's when their kids go back to Dalton. There are a lot of people saying, well, we got to beat Mondami. Of course, we're going to beat him. And David will lay out who are the groups that need to be mobilized to make this happen. It's fascinating. I've seen it. I've seen the presentation. So 3 o'clock today, you'll join for that. Dan, talk about the connection between Barack Obama, and Mr. Jeffries. In other words, he didn't endorse in that article, but it seems like he might. If Barack Obama is behind Mondami, does that pressure Jeffries to get on board, or Schumer to get on board, or not necessarily?
Yeah, well, first off, I think that story was leaked because Jeffries, Hochul, Schumer, Gillibrand have not gotten on board. And Mondami has not had the best week here. Cuomo's attack on him about being in a rent-stabilized apartment with his family wealth, it's gotten under Mondami's skin. He's had his
worst week.
Yeah, he has. And so I think Patrick Gaspard, who was the Obama political director in 2012, is one of the smartest people out there. I think they leaked this. That meeting happened in June, and now it appears in mid-August that it was publicized. I think Axelrod went on the record to try to put the best spin on it as a loyalist, but I read it as a little bit of a panic. I'll be curious if Obama were to endorse, Democrats would go to everyone else and say, if it's good enough for Barack Obama, who's more popular than you, why aren't you getting on board? And that squeezes them. But the reverse happens. If Obama will not endorse and stays quiet, then he's giving cover for everyone else to stay on the sidelines. And that's a problem for Mamdani.
Yeah.
I'll go back to what I've said months ago. I mean, weeks ago, I guess it was now. But like the clock is ticking, and I get all of the analysis, but there is a point at which you just don't have enough time to do all the necessary things.
Do you know when when Trinity and Dalton start back up, Sean?
I believe it's Wednesday after Labor Day, although there is a recital that night.
Preseason sports starts a little before.
Yeah, a little before. So you can't, and a lot of those kids play lacrosse, but you can't get
field
the big,
hockey, I'm sure.
You can't get the big checks written until they're back from the Hamptons and they're stopped paying $70 a pound for lobster salad. That's the issue.
All right.
Last question. We haven't asked this in a while. Percent chance Mamdani wins the race. Dan.
45. No, 55.
40.
55? 55.
Dan,
Mark,
literally,
literally,
the biggest surprise I've ever experienced on this show. Literally the biggest surprise.
In David Burrell's poll, you can just tease one thing. Is Mamdani above 40%?
The horse race number, I don't remember. He's not well above. I think he's not well above 40. But I don't remember.
Well, you've got 44 in what someone had.
I can't remember.
Yeah,
I can't remember. Plus, I don't want to give it all away.
What did I say last time? Where was
you're in charge?
85 is where you were because you wanted to leave room for growth.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so now I'm going to click up too. I'm going to 87.
The correct answer is 87.5. 87.5.
I'm only off by 35.
He cannot lose. And again, David's presentation, I'm telling you, it's fascinating. Join for it. You'll see where the possibility is, but you'll also see that is a high mountain. It's a high mountain to climb. All right, now it's time for your questions. And I'm glad to say that if nobody who's got their hand up puts them down, we're going to get to 3 new people lickety split.
At some point, I feel like I owe it to, I'm advocating for Chris Simmons. He has been a strong advocate in the chat. And I know I may regret this, but I'm just saying that Chris Simmons has run a strong campaign in the chat.
Let's try to get Mr. Simmons on here, but I want to get at least a couple new people in first. I think at least people I've been led to believe are new. Russ, welcome in. Tim Russert would probably call you Big Russ.
Big Russ, yeah.
Please unmute and then tell us where you are, what's on your mind for Dan and Sean.
Hey guys, I'm in Huntsville, Alabama. I'm a 3-time Trump voter and I guess I work for the military industrial complex. I'm a government contractor here for the military.
Have you been on this program before?
Coming there, right? Or the Space Force?
Well, that's a whole
that's a full hour. Russ, have you been on this program before?
Never been on it.
Thank you.
Listened to it for a long time. Really appreciate what you guys are doing.
Do you know we're available as a podcast now?
Yes.
Okay,
I listen to the podcast.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Well, welcome in. What's on your mind, Russ? Thank you for being part of Two-Way.
Yeah. So this subject, I feel like it's kind of gone to the back burner a little bit, but with University of Penn, recanting all the stuff they did with Leah Thomas and the whole trans issue and men and women's sports, I just wonder where Dan thinks his party is on this subject. I know Trump, there was a lot of other activity Trump was going to be doing with Maine and other states that are continuing to allow men in women's sports and men in women's spaces. And if I was running for Congress, I would make, and I was a Republican, I would make every single Democrat candidate defend this or state their policy or whatever. So Dan, where do you think you guys are on this subject?
Great question, Russ.
Great question. And we didn't play it, but there's a clip of JB Pritzker yesterday kind of proudly being defiant and saying there's nothing to apologize for as a party on basically any issue, and look to Illinois as a example of, where we should go. I think what you're going to see here is, you're right, every single Republican is going to bring this up. I think you are going to see some Democrats who are going to double down and, like JB Pritzker, say, we're not apologizing. I think you're going to see others who will try to split the difference and say, basically, men or boys should not play girls' sports, that there should not be kind of this freedom for young children, meaning like pre-18, to make these kind of life-altering decisions without parental consent and to give the space in public schools. But for adults, if they want to do what they want to do or be who they want to be, that's fine. And try to separate children from adults who should be able to do what they want.
Sean.
But what do you think, just real quick, what do you think about the whole sports issue and the men and women's spaces issue?
I think in college, high school, and underneath, younger, no. They're just not a college athlete who, let's say a male swimmer who's 6'4", 215 pounds, going up against a woman who, let's say, is 5'8" and 140 is just not a fair fight. I mean, that is not. So I think you will see most Democrats say no.
Yeah. All right, Raul, welcome in. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Please
let me rephrase that. I hope most Democrats.
Unmute. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind for Dan and Sean. And
hey,
Russ,
Mark.
thank you.
Hey, Mark. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Thank you, sir.
So really happy to be here. I'm calling in from Toronto, Canada. So I'm of Indian descent. But,
state.
Oh yes, I am.
I haven't heard that in a while.
I know.
Yeah, it's not in fashion right now, right? So for some time. So
too soon.
Yeah,
too soon.
Yeah. Hopefully not, but sure. So I was born and raised in India, and I've lived outside of India for a long time. I really admire America. I studied there, and I love a lot of things about your country. But I just wanted to ask like a larger question about your politics and about your foreign policy in general, right? And I wanted to hear Americans speak about it. So I always hear that you're for democracy and supporting fellow democracies. Do you guys really believe that, or is it just something that you say for as like a theme or a marketing kind of thing? Because if you look at your history, that's not really true. Because if you look at all your foreign policy interventions in the past 30, 40 years, you've consistently taken positions which just suit you, not really what is really about democracy. Like right now, when I see Americans say, oh, we should support Ukraine because it's a democracy, that's not really true. Like going back to let's say in the Iran-Iraq war, you were supporting Iraq against Iran.
I'm going to stop you. It's a great question, and it's a big question, and you can give 1,000 examples. I want to get a couple more people in. So Sean, a short answer if you would, and then we'll move on. But thank you for that. Great question.
I mean, I'll just leave it at that. I think it's a great question because you're right. I mean, I think we want to support democracy. We'd love to spread it. But generally speaking, at the end of the day, the enemy of my enemy is my friend sometimes in the short term because of what's in our national interest. So our national interests change from time to time. Sometimes it's militarily, sometimes it's economic. But the bottom line is, I think what we would like to have and what we agree to put up with are two separate things.
Thank you for the question. It's a big one, and will come up more in American history for sure. Tony Mahoney, welcome in. Thank you for joining. Tell folks who don't know where you are, who did the artwork, and what's on your mind for Dan and Sean.
My children.
How old are your kids?
8 and 11.
That's strong work. Good color. Good
It is, right? Who did what? No, just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm in Huntsville, Alabama, although we did live in San Diego for about 10 years. So we've experienced a lot. But actually what I really wanted to ask, because we are a homeschool family and we've been getting into like the political stuff with my middle schooler, I wanted him to hear from you guys why it's so important for a country like ours to have really strong oppositional parties to kind of fight one another, and why it's not a good idea to have like just one dominant party forever and ever and ever ad nauseum.
Yeah. Great question, Dan.
Yeah, I think first I'll just start with the beauty of this country is we do have two strong parties. We do have the space for the opposition to scream. And, it's in very few countries in the world can you say things about the sitting president, whether it was Trump against Biden or Democrats against Trump, and not end up, in a prison or, falling out a window. I mean, it is one of the great things about this country. It can be very intense. but you want to have the ability to challenge somebody's ideas, to present alternatives, to be engaged. Ultimately, government is in service of you, in your community, your country, to make your life better, to solve your problems. And the only way it happens is if the citizenry engages, people step forward to run for office, and people present their ideas. And a lot of times the experts think they know what's best, but I think Donald Trump proved anybody can do it. And if you believe in your ideas and you stick by them, you never know. It might be more popular than a lot of people think, and you might end up being right in history.
So, three quick things. One, I think more fundamental, and Dan touched on this, is the ability to have the opposition party.
Right.
Because having it, and I mean, Russia technically has an opposition party, and you just die if you join it. And that's scary. And so the more fundamental point is that you need to have the freedom to be able to do it and exercise it. Secondly, it's always good to have a check on power. And that's even for the party in power to know that someone's watching you. And then three is I do like the battle of ideas. And I think what the beauty of the last cycle was, to me, at least temporarily, while it lasted until the last 107 days, was that you could literally contrast ideas. If you didn't think if you liked Donald Trump's first term and you liked his policies and his commitment to the border, then vote for him. If you wanted open borders, higher taxes, more government, then vote for the alternative. But we had a true contrast, and there was a real difference. Oh God! Now I'm gonna filibuster the rest.
Yeah, the opposition.
I didn't think that the opposition was coming in this quick.
To...
And Chris Simmons looks like he's ready to go, but you're about to see this, Tony Mahoney, in practice.
Yeah,
Tony, are your kids
look at this. Chris Simmons looks like Rocky in the ring. He's ready to go.
Tony, thank you for joining and bringing the perspective you did.
Thank you for being not mom to provide that answer. I appreciate that.
Are they in the room, Tony? Are they? Right
my son is. Yes.
Yeah.
Tell him.
Yeah.
Hello, son.
All right. Thank you. Hey there. Thank you.
And we're out of time, guys. Thanks for coming.
No, we got a lot
today.
to do. All right. For those who don't know, and again, the audience grows so fast. And we got all people in the podcast. Chris Simmons is here. Chris has been with us from the very beginning. He's one of the, I'd say, OGs of the two-way community, and has been not as present lately because he's got other better things to do. But we're glad to see you, Chris, and the floor is yours, gentleman from Georgia. I yield my time in full to the gentleman from Georgia.
Yeah, I've been busy finishing my second book. So
I was wrong. Thank you, Sean. When's it coming out?
About 3 weeks.
Okay.
I got a minor issue and then a bigger one. I had a minor issue with you, Mark, the way you introduced Bowser's reaction to the National Guard by suggesting that she was like, maybe it's okay. Maybe we could use the help.
She said it, Chris.
I know she said it, but Mark, you know well enough that her approach is an appeasement approach. And she's saying lots of things behind the scenes that she won't say on the camera.
Yeah.
And just like those international leaders who come over and have to kiss Trump's behind because they don't want to get all their foreign aid cut off, she's playing her game too. So that's my minor issue.
We don't disagree, Chris Simmons, on that.
Okay. My bigger issue is I really think all three of you should listen to more Black media. Like, go listen to Karen Hunter on the radio or Roland Martin on his show, because you don't understand. There was a reason that Blacks used to call DC Chocolate City. It has a place in Black American lore. And this continued attack by Trump on yet another Black-run, Black mayor city. And I said in the chat the other day, you can't separate the message from the messenger. So who's the messenger? Well, he's the DEI hired guy who says that, Ketanji Brown, who's got a cum laude degree from Harvard Law, she's DEI, but he's got the most incompetent whiteboard cabinet we've ever seen. He's surrounded by Laura Loomer and Charlie Kirk. Is the biggest race baiter in America. We could have a whole hour on that, and I know I'll win that argument. He's got Stephen Miller with his 900 white nationalist emails. He's surrounded by all of that. And then he continually calls Black leaders low IQ. So when that's the messenger, going after yet another black city, that might explain why the latest YouGov poll has his black approval at 11% and dropping.
Well,
I really think you guys need to report this story with more comprehensive viewpoint of the people.
Yeah.
And it will drive national black turnout, by the way, because national blacks, we know what he's doing and we don't like it.
Okay, Chris, 3 quick things. First of all, Roland Martin is a lying demagogue, so I'm not really that interested in what he has to say, but I take your general point. We should be consuming as much broad media as we can. Number 2, do you think there are black citizens of the District of Columbia who are glad to see more law enforcement on the street?
Of course there are.
Okay, no further questions. No further questions on that one. And then lastly, what are we undercovering in the story?
The fact that what I just said about how blacks might view it, none of you have ever brought up and wouldn't unless I did.
Well, guess what? It was just.
So that's what you've undercovered.
It was just on two-way.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, Mark, that the way you described the mayor's reaction was not a comprehensive approach to the topic.
Well, I think, Chris, though, in fairness, look, I think it was. You're right. She has politics to play. She wants funding for the new stadium and the neighborhood around it, which requires the federal government to sign off because they own the land.
Yeah.
Right? She wants, look, the biggest employer in her district is the federal government, and she wants to have a good partnership with them. Chris, that's politics. That's not a black-white thing. That is just every senator, governor, mayor, like Gretchen Whitmer comes. Why? She needs Trump for certain things. So I don't think we're underreporting that behind her back, she's probably mashing her hands and probably curses, God damn it, this got put in my lap. But that's true of well, it got put in her lap because Trump did it, right? It wasn't on her bingo card this week to have to deal with this until Trump did it. But I think what you say about Black America, you're right. I don't follow, and I should more what is being said. But I do think that to say that Black America is angry with this, I do think Mark is right in that in some of the worst neighborhoods with the highest crime, they happen to be Black, and they have been begging for more police officers, safer neighborhoods. It is their children who get kind of the, incidental gunfire that takes out somebody. Same here in New York City, right?
You know what, Dan? If they're not getting what they want, they have a mayor, they have an election, they can vote out the politicians who are not giving what they want.
But
they
Chris,
didn't ask for the dictator to come in and give it to them.
They didn't, but they also haven't elected a mayor to clean up the city in my lifetime.
But I mean, but that's where, Chris, if you listen to some, one
so
of the
you don't believe in democracy like the guy from Canada just said.
I do. I believe in it.
The right mayors.
Well,
so now the president should come in and take over.
No, I didn't say that.
You kind of implied it.
Well, no. Here's what I said, and I'll say it again. Then we got to go. The proof's in the pudding, Chris. The city has been poorly run for my entire life. It's a metro area in which I grew up. The streets are horrible. The crime is horrible. The services are horrible. It is a poorly run place, and it's the nation's capital, and we shouldn't have a nation's capital that's so poorly run. So that's just the fact, and their inability to keep their citizens safe. I don't care about the statistics. I can tell you, this current government is not keeping their citizens safe. So I don't like everything about the president and the way he's doing it, and I can't imagine anybody would. And it needs careful scrutiny. But to say the people in the District of Columbia don't deserve more help, I don't see race on that. I just see a failure of government.
And I'll say one of the most legit criticisms I've heard of Trump's effort is this federal show of force is on the mall and around the White House. They're not in the worst hit neighborhoods. That's where they should be sending, the Marines.
Chris, come back tomorrow. We'll talk more about it, but we got to go.
Send them to St. Louis next.
Well, right. Different rules. Sean, thank you, Chris. We'll see you tomorrow. Sean, what do you have tonight?
Thursday, so we got the panel, Steve Cortez, Sarah Gonzalez to the Blaze. We're going to break down the Hunter Biden thing. We've got a lot on the story of the Russia hoax that I talked about. So we'll a lot of big issues to get. And plus, I want to get through it. We've been doing this new thing, predictions, and I think there's a lot that I want people to weigh in on today to give us a sense of where we'll be in the next week.
All right, tell Cordo I said hi. Paul, put up the graphic of the promos because there's a very big and complicated two-way schedule the rest of the day. So 3 o'clock, not on YouTube, but live on the two-way platform. Please join us. Great guests, Ryan Gradusky and Gabe Kaminsky of Free Press will both join. And David Burrell will join. He'll do his presentation that I've been touting. So join us at 3 o'clock to see that, or you watch it live, not live, watch it on demand at 6 o'clock or listen to it on podcast as well. Group chat, Dan and his colleagues, Boccia, etc., 4 p.m. today. And then at 4 o'clock, we're going to be doing a special two-way tonight on the 2028 election. We've done this before with Alex Castellanos and then Jonathan Allen and Amy Parnes. And it's going to be another discussion. We're going to just run through the field of candidates and talk about where we think things stand for 2028. If you want to watch that live and participate, join us at 4 o'clock at the same time as a group chat. Make your choice. 4 p.m. For that. And then two-way tonight will air on YouTube at 6 o'clock, and then the Moynihan Report at 7. Michael's guest, Seth Harp, author of The Fort Bragg Cartel. And then we'll be back tomorrow morning, winners and losers of the week, what to look for, and of course, a summit preview like you've never seen tomorrow morning. Thank you all for being part of Two-Way. Gentlemen, have a great day, and we'll see you at 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock on this platform.
See you.